Hey guys, you're watching the Best Practices Show, where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all across the country. And as you're working hard to trying to improve your practice, one thing you need to make it healthier, you might be missing it. So we have Lisa Spradley, one of the best speakers and consultants out there, to help us with what this ingredient is. So don't miss this. Do me a favor, grab a pen and hit the share button. We'll see you in a second. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show. Thank you so much for watching, and we are having so much fun doing this. And all the requests keep coming in about things you want to see. And again, today is no exception. A lot of you are trying to look for this one ingredient or a few ingredients to make your practice better. And I have got somebody amazing on today that you don't want to miss. And you'll see why here in just a second. Now, a couple show notes. We are shooting this live on Facebook. So if you're watching this during the live feed and you have a couple questions, don't be afraid to add some comments to the comment feed, and I'll make sure that we ask Lisa the question directly, and we want to make sure that we get you the right answers to some of the questions you might have. And if you're watching this later on, even after the live feed, add your questions, and again, we'll make sure that you're getting the right information that you need throughout this. Now, also too, we are now on iTunes, over 4,000 downloads already, and just crazy exciting. So if you please don't watch this in the car. I've had somebody tell me they were watching these. Just listen to them in the car if you're going to do anything in the car. So lots of ways that you can watch and listen. So my guest today, I've known for a while now, and I met you, I think it was back at the ADMC. It would have been a while ago, and watched you rise and become a great star in this world of helping dentists and becoming a speaker and consultant. And you were actually the Office Manager of the Year in 2014. Is that correct, Lisa?
That is correct. How are you doing, Kurt?
I am doing awesome. I'm so pumped. And when I was chatting with you, it took you a while to get you on, but I'm so excited. And you have your own website called frontdesklady.com, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Okay. But now if people don't know you, tell us who Lisa Spradley is. Tell us your story and how you got into this role that you're doing now.
So Lisa Spradley is from a kind of humble beginning. She started in dentistry. Oh my gosh, I've been in dentistry for over 20 years now. Very lucky. I got working for a periodontist, my very first practice. And I always joke with people and tell them I was hired as the recall girl. Right. I did. Back when we did recall, before it was recare, that's what I was hired to do. I came from a customer service industry. I worked in retail for 7 years before I got my first job in dentistry. I was with him until just before he retired. Then he had a daughter who was opening up an orthodontic practice. And I worked with her and her partner for 2 years. That's where I actually got the moniker Front Desk Lady. One time when they were giving a tour of the practice, they kind of did the whole circle. And when they came to me, they stuttered over what my title was. And finally, they came up with the name Front Desk Lady. And I'm a huge believer that you have choices in life, right? Bitter or better. So right. I chose to have fun with it. And I went and had some business cards made that said Lisa M. Spradley, FDL. And several years later, when I started my business, that's what I went with. I currently work for a general dentist and been with him for over 11 years. And it was while working as his office manager that I actually started this idea of wanting to get out there and help dental front offices. At first, I thought I was going to do like the systems, and how to do this and that. And I realized that although those are much needed, that's not my passion. My passion is really our communication or conversation skills, as I like to call them, that help us build relationships and ultimately lead to patient loyalty, which is what we all want.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so good at it. And we're gonna talk about a lot of different topics with you over a lot of different shows. But one of the things you and I were talking about that's really missing in all the practices that you get a chance to see is this valuable ingredient. What is the most invaluable ingredient to have a healthier practice and a healthier life?
Well, you know what? It's our ability to listen. So I've learned that most of us are blessed with the ability to hear. Okay.
Right.
However, we're not always listening. And listening is a skill that is valued in every aspect. You made a very good comment to me. We could all use that a little bit better in our marriages. I mean, there's so many applications where we can be better listeners. But in order to do that, we have to learn it. It's a skill. And the London University came out with a post of 66 days. It takes 66 days to develop a habit. So just imagine practicing for 66 days to develop the habit of really listening, and not listening because you want to give a response or because you think people want to hear your advice, but just listening and maybe just being there for someone when they need to vent or whatever it might be. Because a lot of times when you're sitting at the front desk of a dental practice, you are just a sounding board, because they're going to tell us things that they would never repeat to the dentist.
Right.
So it's a very unique position that we have.
Yeah. Now, can I just ask you, do men have a harder time with this than women, or is that just too cliche? I mean, what's your opinion on this?
You know what? I think it's very cliched, because I can tell you that I don't listen to my husband as well as I should.
So it works both ways. Okay.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. Where women get into trouble is we just think you should know.
Right. Or you call it selective hearing or something like that, type of a thing. Okay. But it's so critical, because we're going to talk about conflict. We're going to talk about, when we talk about critical things to say and not to say, patients just have to be heard now more than ever, don't they?
They really do, because there are many options out there. It's not like before, when I started even 20 years ago, I worked for the only periodontist in town. So there was no competition aside from, what general dentists might be doing in their practices. But now, with the, in our small town, for an example, I live in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, there are about 40,000 people. We have over 70 dentists. Wow. And a couple of corporate dentists that have moved into the area too. So people are not just about the money. And I think that a lot of times that's where we get stuck. We're defending our prices, and we're all worried about the dental benefits and all of that good stuff. But it's a proven fact that if you give a patient great customer service, even if they leave you temporarily for a better price, they're going to come back to you because they didn't get that same quality of service. So that ability to listen, it really speaks to our customer service level.
Absolutely. Now, the thing I would say, if you're a dentist watching this, you might say, "Oh, customer service." The bottom line is you have a group of people around you. And so few dentists really invest in all of these people getting the right training. And you talk about verbal skills, you're going to see Lisa's one of the best at this. How do you see dentists really understanding this and saying, "Hey, look, guys, this is hugely important. We need to up our game"? Or is this one of those things that gets skipped over as they advance in continuing technical education? I mean, what are your thoughts as far as the trends here go?
You know what? I can tell you I've seen a huge shift.
Okay.
I really have. Now, there's always the exception to the rule, right? But I was just in, where was I last week? Trying to remember now. Anyway, I was somewhere speaking. It'll come to me eventually. And there was a dentist that was a part of I was in Baltimore. He was a part of the speaking group that I was speaking to, and he was talking about how his why is really to invest in his team so that they can give the best experience to their patients. And that was just, everybody in the room started applauding, because that's what it's about. It's no longer just the clinical experience and, the CEs that you have to have for team members. Now it's about investing in your front office team too, because, and once again, I'm going to just go back because I know you do this too. You might be the very best dentist in the whole wide world, but if you don't like the way I'm speaking to you when I'm answering the phone, It's never going to happen. You're not going to meet who could potentially be the best patient in the whole wide world because I didn't do my job right.
Yeah.
So that's what it all comes to. And it's not just the front office. It's really anybody who interacts with the team, because once again, they could come in through the door, but if the assistant, the hygienist, or even the dentist themselves, if they aren't taking the time to really speak with and listen to anyone, the patients, the team, then those relationships aren't going to be built and they're going to go somewhere else.
Right, right. And you and I were talking before we got started. This is still and always will be a hugely relational business. And people do this because they have a deep emotional connection with your team. And we get these questions all the time. People are like, well, where should I invest my marketing? Like, what's the best marketing tool that you have? And I'm like, it's the people. It's the people around you. If you can get their eyes saying that consistent message and their voice and giving the TLC to the patients that you really know that you can do, it changes everything. So let's go into this because, you're really, really good with the listening aspect and then words that you use. So where do we start? Give us an idea. Where would you start, Lisa?
So for me, it all starts with our ability to relate to other people. Okay. We have to really understand what it is they're telling us. And as I said before, not listening because we have a script of questions that we want to answer, or because, the doctor wants to know, where the tooth's at, when it started hurting, blah, blah, blah. Those are all important things that we need to find out. But just listening, taking the time to listen to what they're telling you. And I want to preface that by saying that I totally get it. I know that it's a busy dental office and we don't have 15 minutes to sit on the phone and have a conversation, at least not that in depth. But we always have time to go a little bit further into what it is they're saying to us. Repeat back what your patients are telling you. And then I think they call it mirroring, when you repeat the verbiage back that the patient said to you, so that you make sure you're really understanding these points that they're making. And then I like to tell people to share, but to share only that which is important to the conversation. So it can't just be a one-sided conversation if you're going to build relationships. You have to give something of yourself. So whoever is, talking to the patient has to be willing to give something of themselves. I had an email from a young man a couple weeks ago who was, he found me online and he said he was looking at getting into dentistry, but he didn't really think that, he would like to talk to people too much, and wanted to know if he thought, if I thought he would be a good hygienist, bearing in mind that he didn't really like to talk to people. And I said, well, you have to have some people skills. I mean, that's the most important part of what we do, to be able to relate to your patients and to your team too, because we all know that if there's anything going on with the team, it's going to be felt in the whole practice. So our ability to talk to other people is crucial. I think relating and then engaging, like you and I are doing right now. Smile, look them in the eye, get them involved with your practice. I always tell people that your patients are really a part of the team.
Right.
One of the big things that I really stress is I don't like the word staff. I don't like staff at all. When I see staff, I think STAPH.
Right.
So that's how I think, and I'm not an infection.
Yep.
I'm a member of a team. So if we all go into this as a member of the team, and we include the patients as a part of the team, so when we're engaging and we're including them as a part of the team, then they really are invested in your practice. And that's what I'm talking about, getting those patients so that they feel like they're not just going to the dentist. They're going to a well-known, well-liked friends environment, and they're having fun, and they are a part of it. And I think when we can do that, then wow, we have really mastered our customer service skills.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that kid that was thinking about going into hygiene, I think we could have helped him by saying, hey, look, do something else if you're not really, go be a woodworker or a technician or, I had a team member say this one time and said, it actually would be better if people would just drop off their teeth and come back and get them. You know what I mean? Like our dentist doesn't want to talk to, I'm like, oh, You can only imagine how much she enjoyed working there, but she's like, yeah, people should just drop their teeth off here. So, and I never saw her again. So, this is so, you have to have some people skills. You got to be able to be invested. Yeah. Now talk.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was just going to say, it's funny how you can go in these different practices and you can immediately, I mean, from the second you step in the door, you can tell who's engaged and who's not. And you can tell whether or not you want to stay there or if you're going to turn around and walk right back out.
Right. Yeah. And I think it comes, sometimes young dentists just need simple skills. I think it's two things. Number one, some people just got to start with eye contact. Like, that's a good place to start. I see dentists looking at people's shoes, looking up at the ceiling. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at, and then asking a question and knowing the difference between an open-ended question and a closed-ended question is a big part, I would imagine, of what you teach in listening. Can you explain that? Because even at my age, we all need help with the difference between an open-ended and a closed-ended question. And why is it so important more now than ever?
Well, okay, so an open-ended question is going to be one that invites the patient to explain what it is, for example, if you're presenting a treatment plan, you're not gonna say, so are you ready to schedule, and give them the opportunity to say no, which is a closed-ended, question. So when we ask open-ended, we're going to say, so this is what the doctor has prescribed, blah, 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 blah. And I'm happy to go ahead and schedule a time for you. What day works best? And then they're going to either tell you yay or nay. And I always like to tell teams, when you're talking to patients, one of the biggest disadvantages I think that we or disrespects might be a better word, that we do to our patients is we go in and we just assume that we know that they're not going to schedule. So we approach it with the wrong attitude. Whereas if we go in and we just put it out on the line, let's assume that they're going to schedule, that there's no reason why they wouldn't schedule. Right. And then when they tell you that they can't for whatever reason, then you can address it further. And those open-ended questions are going to be the best way to get them to tell you, hey, you know what? I can't schedule right now. I don't have the time. I don't have the money, whatever the case might be.
Yeah. Well, if you're raising teenagers, you know how important, open or close. I mean, ask a teenager a closed-ended question. How was your day? Fine. You don't get anywhere. But if you say, hey, tell me one thing that wasn't great, and tell me one thing, and they'll give you a little bit more. So that's cool. Now you're real big. What's that?
I said not much, but you might get 3 words instead of just 1.
Hey, 3 is way better than 1, which is great. And I got to listen to all 3 words. Now, you're real big on what words to say and not to say when you're in the listening and communication process. Can you take us through that? Because you have years of experience on this.
Yes. Well, so for me, there are a few key words that, and I've talked to others and they agree that we just need to totally eliminate from our vocabulary when we're speaking to patients or anyone really. The word just, that's a big one. You hear it a lot. It's not just a cleaning. I'm not just the front desk lady. You're not just Kirk Bernhardt, whatever. If we could understand how that minimalizes everything that we're saying, it's kind of like when you say but. You've totally negated everything that you said before then when you put that but in there. So just does the same thing. Oh my goodness. I is and it's so hard. I actually have started now before I start speaking, I have someone that makes count of how many times I say I in my presentation. And then when I get to my no-nos portion, while I tell them words not to say and I say I, then I'll go, okay, how many times did I say I? I mean, sometimes you can't help it, but too often we tend to do that. We personalize everything, and we need to stop that. We, us, they, you. There's much better words. Another word, cleaning. There's continued care, continued hygiene. I don't know what you want to use to replace that, but when you tell them that it's a cleaning, you very much so minimize that appointment to them. And that's why they can call and cancel it, because it's just a cleaning and it's not really that important, Yeah. Cancellation is another good word. Speaking of canceled, I think we've all known now that when we tell patients we'll call them if we get a cancellation, that we're basically just giving them the invitation to go ahead and cancel that appointment. So, we've had a change in the schedule. And I have a lot of people that will ask, so what do you do when someone calls and says they can't make it to their appointment? What do you say? What's the words? And for me, it's really putting the value of that appointment to the patient, which hopefully we've been doing all along. But let's be honest, even our best verbal skills are sometimes just going to go to naught. People are still going to just not value what we're doing.
Right.
So, and did you notice I just used the word just? So they don't value what we've done. So we have to make sure that we just keep emphasizing that. So we're going to explain to them what it was that we were going to do that day, that, it was time for their oral hygiene appointment, that it was time for their oral cancer screening. And what I love to do, a little trick that I love to do, if a patient calls and says, well, I just can't make it, maybe the hairdresser can get me in today because believe me, we hear them all. Then I will put that patient on hold after I've explained to them the importance of this appointment. And before I do, though, I'll explain to them that I need to go speak to the hygienist and or the doctor to see if there was anything that they really wanted to follow up on this appointment. And this lets them know that it was not just a cleaning. This was continued care. This is for your overall health. And then when I come back on the line, I'll stress whatever it is. And I may or may not have went and spoke to the hygienist or doctor. Maybe I just looked through the chart notes. Mm-hmm. But I made the patient believe that I was doing that.
Right. So, yeah, well, first of all, I'm never going to cancel on you for a hair appointment because that's just not in the cards for me since I was 14. So the second thing is, I was just thinking about this, though, if you put me on hold, I'm going to start to sweat a little bit because I'm expecting this to be a pretty fast transaction where I'm going to so-called cancel on you, but it gives the patient time to think about this, right?
Right. Well, hopefully that's the thought, is they think about what it is they're doing. I mean, I've explained to them again the importance of this appointment. They know it's not just a cleaning, and they understand that they need to get them back in. Now, if I get back on the phone and, they still don't want to keep that appointment, then the next step in that is to say, okay, well, you know what, Kirk, I'm so sorry that you feel that this appointment, cannot be kept. Now, this is barring the fact that it's an actual emergency, because sometimes emergencies happen and we have to accept that. Life is not perfect, right? But I will tell them, let's go ahead and reschedule. But I just need to let you know that it's going to be at least 6 weeks before I can get you back on the book. Now, sometimes it's actually longer than that based upon, what the actual practice's schedule looks like. But you want to make sure that you're not scheduling them at least 6 weeks before. And then they're immediately going to tell you, oh, but it's time for my cleaning. I really need to get this scheduled. And you'll be like, well, we have you down today. You can keep that appointment. If you must reschedule, the next one will be 6 weeks. Bear in mind that you may have a change in the schedule tomorrow at 4:00. But you're not going to give that to that patient until maybe the end of the day or maybe the beginning of the next day, depending on what you're feeling like. You'll call, guess what? I had a change in the schedule and I can get you in today at 4 or tomorrow at 4, whatever the case might be. Let them see that these things don't happen often and that they're definitely not appreciated or, should be considered the norm.
Right. I love that because we teach people how to treat us. And if they continuously cancel on us, we're just kind of encouraging the behavior. But look, can I ask you this question? What about first time, or if it's a first time cancellation, are you still pushing them out 6 weeks, or are you going to take that in consideration when you put them on hold? Or would you probably move that towards a second or third? I mean, I'm just curious because everybody has a different thought process on this.
Right. So, I'm still going to move them out probably no less than 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay, cool.
No less than 3 to 4 weeks because they need to see that value. They need to see that value. And then, of course, some practices offer they threaten a cancellation fee. Mm-hmm. And, but they'll always, because this is your first time, I'm not going to charge it. Whatever you want to do there is fine with me, but I would never actually put a cancellation fee on the account because if they didn't come in, they're not going to pay their bill.
Right.
That's my thought. And over 20 years, I can tell you, trying to collect money for something that never actually happened just doesn't happen too much. And all it is it's another thing for me to have to follow up on. So that's up to you. Some people find value in it. It never worked for me. So maybe I'm just not strong-armed enough. Going back to the words, though, dental insurance, I know that's always a key
it creates a lot of activity and a lot of conversation when you say dental insurance.
I don't like the word insurance at all because we don't have dental insurance. We have dental benefits. And I like to explain to our patients what those benefits are. I know that there are a lot of practices that are fee for service now. There are a lot of practices that are in network. That's neither here nor there. If you file claims for your patients, then you need to help them understand their dental benefits. That's my belief. I'm fairly strong on that because I like to tell people, look, we've been in this industry for years and we barely understand what the hell is going on with dental. So how do you expect our patients who don't hardly ever deal with it to understand what's going on? So I think that, we need to help them understand. And it's like you said, we are training them to know that these are benefits. It's not a true insurance plan. It's a benefit.
Right. Did you start that right away at the first appointment, or are you doing that on the phone when they call and they introduce?
Because, that, like I said, I want to mirror when I'm relating to the patients. I want to mirror the words they're saying. So if they call up and want to know, do you take my dental insurance? I'll go into the whole spiel about how I'm happy to help them determine what their benefits are. I'm using the word benefits. I may slip in the word insurance, but as they keep coming to our practice, I'm continually using benefits more than insurance so that they start to think of it as a benefit and not an insurance. And I also want to let them know about their, that another word that I absolutely hate are maximums. I can't stand that because what do we max out, Kirk?
Right.
We max out our credit cards.
Right.
So, and if you think of it that way, when it's maxed out, you can't use it anymore. That's how people think about dental benefits. When it's maxed, well, I can't do anything else till next year. So instead of telling them that they're maxed out, if we tell them that their benefits are exhausted, you can become refreshed from being exhausted.
I love that.
Yes. So why not use that terminology instead? And once again, we never do treatment based upon dental benefits. Right. So we explain that, we educate, and we constantly go over, what their benefits will pay versus, what they're going to have to be responsible for, and then explaining why ultimately in the end, it's what's best for them. It has nothing to do with their benefits. It's a lengthy process. I know this. Everything that I'm asking people to do takes time, and I'm dealing with a lot of people or people that don't have a lot of that. So we have to be smarter with how we use our time. And I think one of the biggest myths that we do is the multitasking, where we're going to be on the phone, do this, do that, whatever else. And although I believe that it is possible to do more than one thing at a time, I firmly believe you can only do one thing well at a time.
I totally agree. I'm with you. And there are some things I can't do well at all. So you want to spend your time doing that. Now, I do want to ask you this question because I get this one all the time, and I don't want to go down the insurance rabbit hole too much. But when people say in network, out of network, accepted as full payment, that's always kind of a slippery slope. Now, I am a big fan of just being honest with people up front, but there are people out there that say, hey, don't get into it, just get them in, and it can mislead the patient. Can you just, now you've been doing this for a long time, so how do you do it?
Okay, well, number one, I never believe in the butt in the chair. So
right.
I'm with you. Definitely be honest. So when patients are more educated these days, right? We were talking about what's going to be like in 20 years. There'll probably be robots doing everything that we do, I imagine. However, they're not robots right now. It's us. Right. So when a patient calls and they've Googled, dentist in my area that, accept my insurance, then we have to let them know if a patient calls and says, do you take my insurance? Are you a participating provider? What I immediately like to tell people to say is, you know what? I am happy to help you determine what your dental benefits are. I don't say whether we're in network or out of network because I have to find out. We're going to determine what those benefits are. Okay. And then this is this is a great way to capture information now, because I have to have their phone number. I'm going to have to get in touch with the dental benefit carrier to determine what those benefits are. I'm going to have to get some basic information from this potential patient. And then I have to call them back. So now I have a great way to follow up with them. And it does a couple things. It gives us that ability to follow up with the patient. And it also lets the patient know, hey, the other person or the other office that I just called, they just told me, no, we're not an in-network provider. This person actually took the time. Mm-hmm. And maybe they don't use us right now, but down the road, when they need something, they're going to remember that we took the time to help them.
Right.
We've even done that for patients who maybe we referred out to like an oral surgeon's office or whatever might have happened. And I helped them determine what those benefits are. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. I didn't know what was going on. It's amazing to me how, this word needs to be eliminated from our vocabulary. Busy.
I hate that word.
It's like we wear it like it's a badge of honor. I'm too busy to do this. I'm too busy to do that. Well, you know what? You can do whatever you want if you want to do it. Mm-hmm. You have to want to do it. I want to help people, so I have no problem helping them determine what their benefit policy is or how we can help them get, the best coverage, whatever it might be. And that's the difference. And I think when you're dealing with dental benefits and you're dealing with people's pocketbooks, which ultimately is what this is all about, you have to go in it thinking, how would I want to be treated? Mm-hmm. I would want to be treated with respect. I would want to be treated, this wasn't something that was above my means. I would want to be treated, with a little bit of compassion, because a lot of this that we're dealing with, if it's not cosmetic, let's say it's a root canal. Let's be honest, a molar root canal can be $1,200, $1,500, maybe more, depending upon where you're at. Don't just throw a number at me. That's not what it's about. I think that ultimately dental practices are getting it. They're much more involved with the case presentations and how they're approaching patients. And thank God for outside financing companies that make it so much easier. But there are still some people out there that just they don't get it, and they're what I'm hearing on the phones, I think, is what gets me most. Right. I don't mind giving patients a number if they call and ask about a price, but I don't do it till I get some basic information. Someone calls and wants to know how much a crown is. Probably they were told by someone else they needed a crown. So it's up to us to dig a little bit deeper. Yeah. Because most people don't just call randomly and say, how much is a crown? So
yeah. Well, yeah. And what you're talking about is really creating, patient advocacy. I mean, how many businesses do you call in a week? Do you go, wow, that was so amazing. Like I just hung up the woman. The woman was unbelievable, 0 or maybe 1. And that's just it's lost so much in this world. And I love how you help your patients. Now, I'm just a weirdo, so I love to ask these questions. Like, so when patients call you and you're describing the whole, if they ask you about the insurance and you're going to call them back or the benefits. Now, are you scheduling the appointment at that time, or do you schedule the appointment when you call them back? I'm just curious because I do get that question.
Right. So what I typically do is go ahead and schedule the appointment at the first call. Okay. I like to go ahead and schedule that appointment, and then I'm going to call them back within 24 hours. They know that I'm going to call them back within 24 hours. And at that time, if that appointment doesn't work based upon the information I found out, then we can take it off the book. That's not a problem. Here's an important thing for everyone to understand. Not everybody who calls your practice is a good fit. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Right. You went into this business for a certain reason. Okay. And that's our why. We all have those long mission statements that none of us know what it is they say. I have the biggest kick. I have doctors that can't tell me their mission statement. And it's because it has too many words in it. So I always ask them, get it down to 3 or 4 words, and that's your why. So whatever your why is, those are the team members that you're going to surround yourself with, and those are the patients that you're going to surround yourself with. So, and I promise you, if you can do that, you're going to have a successful practice. It's not all about, just those almighty butts in the chair.
I totally agree, because what you're talking about, again, just your core value exercise, your why. When you get really clear about that, you're going to attract team members, patients that believe the same things. And that's really a very rewarding career in dentistry, is when you're like, these people are mostly my friends, except for a few of them that we set free every year. So, it's okay. No business is perfect, but it's important to figure out why, and what makes you tick, so that you can make the rest of it work. Now, I did just get a question from Deepak, who's awesome, buddy. You're just asking great questions. He said, I served as an FDG, front desk gentleman, for several years as we built my wife's practice. Having done that, it made me a better practice manager, business manager, and father. That's how rich and diverse the skill set becomes when done right. I've heard this is the position with the highest turnover. Any thoughts on how the owners can reduce this turnover in their offices? Is it the highest turnover in a dental office?
I would certainly rank up there. I don't know the exact percentages, but I can tell you it is. And typically, Kirk, the reason why it is because doctors hire this position and they throw the person in and say, have at it. It's a sink or swim mentality. The front office is a happening little place. Okay. Right. If we're doing our job right, then the phone's ringing, people are walking in the door, people are checking out. There's dental benefits. Oh my God, got to file those, the recall list, all this stuff that has to be done. And if you're hiring someone, which unfortunately happens more than I like to think of, that doesn't have any skills because they're cheap, then they don't know what they're doing. So they're getting the heck out of there as fast as they can. So the best thing that you can do is you can invest in that front office team. So as I said, the mentality is changing. It's getting better, but we can do more. So front office doesn't require CE, right? We're not certified. We don't have to get continuing education. The joke I made with that doctor who called me the front desk lady when I put my business cards that I had made, she's like, well, what does that mean? So when I told her that's what she called me, front desk lady, and I said the best part is I have initials and I'm not in debt, So and it was very true. I just had $10 for the stationery cards. But if you can let your team members be a part of organizations like the American Association of Dental Office Management, or Dental Office Managers now, where I had received my recognition. Get them involved in groups like that. Have them start study groups. Oh my gosh, study groups are wonderful. Send them to state and city programs. Anything that gets them around like-minded people so that they can learn and grow, and then give them resources to be able to find out the answers to those questions. You have to invest in training, and of course, we all know you have to have some systems in place. And too often, systems in place is a notebook written down with, how to go step by step, which is good. We need those, but they're not systems. So don't put someone in and expect them to do the job and then expect them to stay there. Be willing to invest the time and the money to let them learn and grow.
Yeah. And Lisa, I would totally agree with you. It's single-handedly the most neglected position in any dental, on any dental team. They just throw them up there and say, go. They also have high expectations and very little empathy for what's required.
Yeah, just sit there on the phone. That's all you do.
I got a good idea. What if one day a year we switched roles? The doctor had to work the front. They would just wave the white flags. I got to get out of here. This is crazy. I think that would be awesome. Don't you? And
it would be fun, but I personally wouldn't want to practice dentistry.
No. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point down there. And Deepak, I'm sure you could understand by asking the question, the understanding that you have for that role once you've occupied that role. I mean, you have...
Right, though. It makes you a better everything, because now when I come home, I'm taking a little bit more time to listen to my children when they do speak more than 3 words to me. And I'm not always assuming things about them, because we do it. They're young. They don't know what they're talking about. I think some of today's teenagers are probably smarter than we are.
Right. Well, and we could go here. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could go this without getting anybody in trouble. You could talk about every role in the practice and how they're important in different components. The assistant probably is the one that makes the dentist the happiest, the fastest. The hygienist probably provides the most as far as the overall restorative picture and, the diagnose. And then the person at the front, I would say this, is probably the single most important person in making sure that you have a life. do you know what I mean? Like a life and you have money, so,
Yes.
so
Say all the time that she who rules the schedule rules the world. So in Deepak's case, it would be he who rules the schedule rules the world. But I do like to tell people that, the Constitution of the United States of America says all men are created equal. So in that belief, all front desk ladies are created equal. So, if I'm a man, he can be a lady.
Absolutely.
But anyway, no, it is so important to recognize your front office team, all of them. I want you to think about this because this is something that I just heard from an office that I'm working with. We have Dental Assistants Week. We have Hygienist Week or Hygiene. Yeah, I think it's Hygienist Week. We've got Professional Administrator Day. Wow. And she's like, why is that? I said, well, number one, it wasn't even really created for us. We just fall in that category. I said, number two, we have to show the value to our team. So a lot of this depends upon us and what we're doing. What are we willing to do to improve the value of our position? So when I first joined ADOM, I paid for it out of my own pocket, Kurt. Wow. My doctor didn't pay for it. I wanted to join ADOM, so I did. And then I started joining these other groups, and some of them were free and some of them weren't. And then I was taking things back to my doctor that I was learning at these groups and saying, hey, I saw this, and what do you think about that? Have you ever thought about implementing, something like this? And what happened was, as I started showing him the value of what I was doing, what I was taking it upon myself to do, then he became interested in that, and he started helping me to pay for these things. So that's the key. You can't just expect someone to do something for you. You have to show them that you're willing, because dentists can throw money at you all day long, but it doesn't mean you're going to come back and take anything from it or bring something back to the practice. You have to invest that time yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. You do. Somebody's got to take the initiative, and chances are it's not going to be the doctor. And I always joke, but it's not really a joke. If you're a team member watching this and you want to make more money, I'll give you the secret. Go to the doctor today and say, I'm going to be the best blank you've ever had. And when I get there, you're going to pay me. And game on. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to pay me really well, because there's going to be nobody that does. And part of that is going to now.
Nobody else is going to.
Right. Now talk about ADOM, because I love ADOM, but somebody watching this might not know what ADOM is.
Okay, so ADOM is the American Academy of Dental Office Management. I've got to get that right. They changed their name. And they were started, I guess it's going on 13 years ago now, by Heather Colicchio. And it is a group of, dental office management people, women, men, you just name it, and also some team members that get together and share their experiences. There's an online forum that's absolutely wonderful that you can go in and type a question, because a lot of times what happens is when you're in your own little dental practice, you think you're the only one in the world that's ever had this problem. And then you go on to this online forum and say, hey, does anybody have any suggestions on how to deal with this? And you have 50 replies from people who've been through the same experience. So it's that ability to connect with other leaders and share ideas and thoughts and papers. And honestly, for me, the education was wonderful. I love what I took from it. But the relationships, because that's what I'm about, obviously, that I made with some of those women, they're some of the best people in our industry. It's phenomenal. And these are constant resources for me. It also gets you in touch with local groups, because now ADOM has chapters in different states and cities, and you can get together once a month or once a quarter instead of just once a year when they have their big conference. So ADOM is wonderful. Their website is dentalmanagers.com. If anybody would like more information, they have monthly webinars that they do. It's just a wealth of information. And if anybody wants more information, I'll be happy to pass it along.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, other ingredients, when you look at the communication piece that happens in an office, we talked about listening. What are some other things that you see that dentists sometimes don't give a lot of attention to that could make the practice healthier?
Well, for me, it all relates back to communication, but like having those huddles and meetings and really taking the time to get to know your team. One of the least utilized ways and the most economical ways to keep your practice healthy is by simply just having an attitude of gratitude. Right. I mean, let's be honest. If at the end of every day I made it a practice that I thanked each team member for something specific, a general thank you is not appreciated and they just, yeah, whatever. But if you look for something good in each day and then acknowledge it at the end of every day, your team realizes it. And it's not good enough just for the practice administrator to do it. The dentist really needs to do it. Right. I mean, it's good that I see it too, but that's a common theme is, team members don't feel appreciated, which is typically the biggest reason why they leave. It's not money. It's that lack of appreciation. So just really getting in there and getting together and doing things that will help you grow as a team, things that will help you grow as a practice. These are things that are really sometimes missed by the dentist because they're just so busy worrying about, the practice that they forget the people.
Right. So, and we're not talking about like giving constant praise all day long. I think sometimes it just starts with the commitment to communicate, whether it be on a regular basis, a morning huddle, because the morning huddle is a great place where you can do it and just say, hey, look, guys, yesterday, I know that was hard. Thank you. And I mean, sometimes it just starts as simple as that to get the dialogue going instead of what we see a lot of times. The dentists will just lock themselves in the private office, close the door, and then everybody dismisses themselves.
Yeah, don't forget what I said in the beginning about 66 days to form a habit. So, make yourself do that. It can be done. Other than that, I think the big thing that we need to remember is that, unless you're a brand new practice, our existing practices have plenty of patience to keep us going and growing. So if we are taking care of our patients and if we're building that patient loyalty by creating these strong relationships, then they're going to refer. They're going to refer their friends and families. And I mentioned earlier about, making the patient a part of the team. Newsletters are a perfect way to do that. Get their permission, put a family photo up from the wedding that they had this summer with that beautiful new smile they just got. And they're going to share that newsletter with everyone. And then everyone's going to be like, well, where'd you get those beautiful teeth at? So the repercussions are just, they're never ending. But we have to think outside the box every now and then, which is not always my strongest point. I'll admit to that. But we do have to have the ability to, just think of unique and creative ways to grow our practice. That's not all about spending more money to get new patients. I know that there are plenty of people out there that will tell you they can, bring in tons and tons of new patients. It's not always about the new patients. Sometimes it's about taking care of the ones you have and getting them to do your marketing for you.
Right. I totally agree that most of the practices we see, I'd say greater than 95% of them, they really don't need one more new patient. You look at the number of patients that leave through hygiene, don't come back. There's a poor follow-up system. I mean, if they just kept the patients that they had, or better yet, answered the phone, got them in, and then kept them, you'd save about all of your marketing budget and have your practice is double in size.
Enhancements we were talking about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, it just goes, sometimes you just spend so much energy on things that just don't matter. But, that's why we have experts like you on here to remind us what do we need to be. So I love this, Lisa, and you're such a great influence in this awesome profession. I know, are you going to be at ADOM this year? You'll be there?
I have not made up my mind for sure. I've got a few things going on. So I've got to kind of pick and choose very wisely what it is I'm doing. But I've been to everyone thus far, so we'll see how we can make it work.
Absolutely. But if people want to get a hold of you, how can we get a hold of you if I have a question? Because I know a lot of people are going to have some questions.
Okay. Well, the best way is Lisa Marie at frontdesklady.com. That's the easiest way to get me. Just email me directly as opposed to using my website because I'm still trying to figure out where those emails go. So, but Lisa Marie at frontdesklady.com. I have a Facebook page, Front Desk Lady. You can message me on that. So yeah, those are the easiest ways.
Yeah, that's awesome. I am so crazy grateful that you were able to join us today. And again, we're going to cover a lot of different subjects, and this was just the first one. So thank you so much. Now stay on for a second while we say goodbye to everybody else, but because I want to chat with you for just a little bit longer. But if you're watching today, thank you so much for watching. And again, if you have questions, add them to the feed, and I'll have Lisa get back to you, and we'll give you the right type of information. Take the time to invest in those people around you, especially the ones up front, because they can often lend a great helping hand, make sure you have a better practice and a better life. So until we see you next time, keep watching the Best Practices Show. You guys have a great day.